Excellent. Goody, goody, goody. That looks like we have gone live without any major problems. Just thought I'd try a little bit earlier, having had problems a couple of weeks ago, so I could do something to sort it out and not be too late. There we are. Going live if there was a problem there. So there we are. Let me just do that and share that. We'll see where we get to with everything else. And just wait a little bit for people to come in. Oops, she says, throwing everything around. It's always not a good idea. So someone has come in and joined me, which is lovely, because I don't think I gave myself a heart. It's perfectly possible. Let's get rid of that. Let's just grab some of these. Pop them here. Pop them here. There we go. We'll just stick some of those over there. Might have a little play and do two colourways. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Cool. Good evening, Faith. Welcome. Thank you. Hi, Sheila. Hi, Jan. Good evening, Julie. Hello, Juliana. Will one of you just confirm that you can hear me, because I have the sound turned off on all of my devices so that you don't end up with a horrible screeching echo, because it's just not very nice. Hello, Esther. Good evening, Jenny. Thank you for joining us this evening. Thank you, Faith. That's lovely. It's much appreciated. Yeah, that's it. I've got that around the right way. So we're just literally clicked into 6 o'clock now. Hi, Sylvia. Thank you. Everything is very good. Thank you so much. For those that you don't know, Sylvia is the lady who works at Penta, who is the coordinator for sorting out and has the hard work of getting all of the lives sorted, scheduled, setting up everything. So it's always very grateful for all of her hard work and for the team at Penta. It's lovely. We're getting a few people joining us this evening. So I have some very strange things on my desk this evening. Because as we all know, I don't think I can draw. Well, I know I can't draw. There's no think about it. I really can't draw. And I could have printed out an image and then copied it over with some copy paper, good old-fashioned carbon paper. And then I thought, let's do something a bit different. Hello, Laurie. Welcome. Good evening, Sarah. Thank you so much for joining me. So I had a little play and a little think, and I've come up with something that I think anyone could do, from relatively small children to adults, and still produce something, even if they don't feel they're particularly artistic or particularly able to draw. So I have assorted cards on my desk and cotton buds. So these are eco-friendly ones. They're made with cardboard inners, so there's nothing nasty there to go in a bin and then sit for ages. So I thought about this and I had a little play and I had a lot of fun and decided that even I could manage to paint with cotton buds and credit cards. So here we go. So we're going to be concentrating on the new fabric paints. I am going to add in some of the petite mediums for last year, but you could also water other things down quite happily. Hello, Elizabeth. Welcome, my darling. Welcome, welcome. So if we're not careful, we might have some binging from Facebook, but let's hope not. So I have what is called a friction pen, and this is basically a quilt maker's or a sewer's pen that is heat erasable, and I'm sure wherever you are there'll be something equivalent. And my good friend Rima, who is based in the USA, gifted this to me. So I am going to start by just drawing round, oops, she says I'm going offline there, some pots, because I wanted a few different sizes. I didn't want it all to be exactly the same. And these are just going to be guides. And as I say, these will eradicate with an iron. So that's always cool, isn't it? So let's see where we're up to. Let's just have, let's pop that one. I think we'll have this one over there. So we're going to make a little garden tonight. Because, am I on? So inside my cushion cover, because that's what I'm working on, there is actually a piece of cardboard, and we can't just have 5, can we? 4. So let's just pop another one. I think we might pop that over there, and if they overlap a bit, ultimately it won't matter. And we can add as many of these as we want to, or take as many of them away as you want to. The option is really up to you. So I'm going to create something in these areas and then link it down to the rest of my page. So I think that's super simple. As I say, it is a heat erasable pen. You probably weren't going to be seeing very much of it by the time I've finished anyway. And then I want to add some things to this. Hello, Elizabeth. Thank you for joining us this evening. So I have lots of different colours here. And depending on the time, we could maybe do a second colourway. And I'll share that at the end if we don't have time. I'm not expecting this to be a ridiculously long live this evening. So this is the washable fabric paint that has been released recently. All of the lives for this month celebrating the new products are fabric based, and that means because I do them every week, I've ended up with a lot of fabric makes to do. And I've you've seen that I've stamped, I've stenciled, and tonight I just wanted to do something that was very different. So let's just pop that over to there. So that was the black, and it's a beautiful, really dark, rich black, which is cool. Oh, I didn't want the silver. Oh, I do not want the silver at this stage. I will have the silver later on. So this is the grey. And it's quite a pale grey. So to mix this for yourself, you would use quite either a lot of white or a very tiny bit of that black. And we'll pop that into that. And we're going to do a bit of colour blending so we get some different mixes of colours. Good evening, Barbara. Thank you for joining us this evening. Your project today for Pentart is absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So let's just add some of that white down there, and you'll notice that I am lidding these pots. This fabric is really quite thick. The paint is really quite thick, rich and creamy, and doesn't have much filler in it, and that's cool. But it means that in the heat of my conservatory it will dry up quite quickly. So I'm just going to take some of that black, some of that white, and this is an imprecise science, okay? There is nothing, some of that grey, but I'm not wanting stark black for my make, and I might need to add some more of the grey, but I'm wanting shades and tones rather than it all being exactly the same. So I've mixed from the pale grey and from the black a much darker black, and then we can start, and I can see that we'll end up in a pickle. So this credit card is a whole credit card, and quite clearly will go across the depth of there. So all I'm going to do is mix it in. I've got a layer of paint, and I'm going to go across my circle, and I can go several times. I don't need a completely precise fill. So I've got another big one over here. So this, as I say, is going to be, we're just going to build up some detail. And if you miss the middle as you're crossing these over, it really doesn't matter. Now, credit cards conveniently have more than one side, so the little one will work quite nicely for these smaller circles. And I just use standard Pentart pots for doing these, so nothing that, again, most of us haven't got in our stash. There we are. So there we are. And I'm, again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be completely accurate. We're going to build the layers as we go. And we're going to add lots of detail in. There we are. So this is just going to be, well, maybe a bit repetitive, really. So I've got some darker colours in here. And I do think I want another area in there that's a bit darker, so just let me add in some extra bits into there. And it doesn't matter if you go outside the lines, so some of these I can deliberately make a bit bigger than my outline circle, and I don't have to have them all exactly the same size, and that's cool. So before I put my hands in that, Barbara, can you tell me what Elizabeth means by easy textile, please? Because I think it probably means, is it textile? And yes, this is a cotton cushion cover that is part of the Penta collection. So if you are in Hungary, you should be able to get it from there. So let's just add. And these are the new fabric paints. And I'm clearly going to need some more of that pale grey. So let's just add that in. Thank you, Barbara. So it is one of the Penta collection soft cushions covers. There we are. And I don't really want to contaminate my pots too very much. So let me just grab a new and some more of that grey, because we are going to be needing it. There we are. Excellent. And then I'll probably knock that flying in a minute, which won't be helpful. Thank you, my darling. That's most helpful. So let's just add a bit more into there. I definitely want there to be visible differences for these lines that I'm drawing. There we are. Well, that we're printing really, aren't we? But I'm using everyday objects. So we're now just going to fill in some of the spaces. Has anyone guessed where I might be going with my madness tonight? I accept that I'm mad. Hello, Isabel. Welcome, Miriam. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. So there we are. Let's just go across here. And yeah, we've all got cards lurking in our cupboards, haven't we? There we are. We've got some space there. So let's just add some of these lines into place. Oops, didn't want to do that. I wanted to swap to the different sides. So I'm now going to have stuff everywhere. But hey ho. So I'm just aiming to fill in some of these gaps. Won't matter long term where we are. It will all cover. Yeah, that's very true. It just, a certain amount of madness is most helpful. It really is. And say I'm not in the centre there. It doesn't matter, because by the time I've layered everything up, it's really not going to be that obvious, she says. There we are. Let's just then carry on. Just quietly. As I say, I think, a small child in the summer holidays could have a lot of fun. Yeah, I want to go across there doing something like this. And it's simple, it's easy, it's not complicated. You're showing me those sounds that we used to blow to make a wish when we were kids. You're absolutely right. That is exactly where I'm going with these. And they're called dandelions in the UK. And Miriam, they may have a different name, I guess, in in other parts of the world. So I'm just now going to add some of the paler colours. So I'm making the lines that hold the seed heads. This is not a precise art, and it doesn't have to be. And yes, I am building up colour in the centre, but hey ho, does it matter? Not really, not really. So you just need to add the different textures, the different shades, so that you can build something that's maybe a little bit less obvious than and not always all one coloured and one dimensional. So that's the plan anyway. And as I say, I know that my ability to draw an image that looks realistic is completely not there. I make no I don't hide from that fact at all. I love to mix and match products. You'll see me cutting up papers, using molds, but freehand drawing is so not what I tend to be known for. And that's cool, isn't it? Because what happens when you're on a design team is that you get pushed to do things that are different to the things that you would usually use, and then your skill sets develop. And I think I might add some a few more bits into this one, the bigger one, just coming out just that little bit. I've got complete control because I can use either side of my piece, and I'm not worried about pieces bits of one colour laying on top of the other, because nature layers things, doesn't she? She doesn't have everything all together. And there we are. So hopefully, in the UK, dandelion leaves grown without any fertilizers, she says, or weed killers and things, would be used in salads. And I suspect that the Chinese will stir fry something very similar. So, she says, so let me just wipe my hands on a clean cloth rather than that. These are all biodegradable wipes that I'm using, ladies. So nothing new. Yeah. Pitypang. Is that how you say it, Elizabeth? We call them Pitypang. Lovely. It's great. Pee the beds in Scotland. Oh, that's not a very nice term, Faith. It's good, isn't it, when we share differences from our cultures. So there we are. So we have some really iffy looking things there. So now we're going to start adding some texture, and I'm using cotton buds, cheap, easily available. And this means that, again, you can, and soft, so no one's going to come to any harm if children are playing with them. In the UK, we will have a spring holiday and half term. So you could put all of these in separately if you wanted. And you can see that having dropped just picked up some paint, I can now add little dots. And I'm deliberately coming off, and it's random. And one, a little bit of a dip, and then just move about, and I'm getting different depths and densities of my paint which is helping to add to the variation that we'll get long term with these pieces, as I say. So I'm aiming to have a fluffy look, but in a really simple way. And I think I might add, so I'm picking up some of that colour from the centre of that one and from here, and just building up some texture. Do we want everything out separately? I'm sorry, that was my computer binging at me. But here we are. So we're just going to do this little by little by little by little around all of these. Because we can see the bits flying off, can't we? There we are. And we'll move it around. I just wanted something to do this evening that was going to be, well, I think effective. Good evening, Sophie. But not complicated. Something that we could easily do if we didn't feel we were particularly artistic, and that we could enjoy with our children if we're about to have holidays, because they could do it on a book bag, you could do it on a t-shirt. Yeah, it's a bit of a clue, isn't it? So we are asked to set names for our lives, and then I and I don't like to give too much away, but I just think it's nice to have something that alludes to what we're doing. There we are. So we've added some dark, and I don't mind that one, those two sort of merging into each other as if they're in a field together. So we're now going to tip that over and pick up paint on our fingers, and we're going to swap now to the middle tone that I've mixed into here. There we are. And we can start adding and building up. So these aren't necessarily going to be the most delicate. If you really wanted to, you could draw in each line with a very fine brush, and each dot one by one by one with a ball tool. Whoops, I picked up the wrong colour there. And you would get a lovely effect. It will be different to this, and that's fine, isn't it? So choose what you want to do. If you wish to spend hours putting each dot in one by one, then that's your choice, and it will look effective and different to this. Here we are. Let's just add some floating bits flying in the breeze. But it is just a repetitive activity, building up the layers, building up some colour variation as we go. Have I added onto that one? No. So let's just add. And you can go over, so it looks like you've got different bits of the seed heads on top of each other, with the darker ones popping out from below. Well, that's what it looks like in my head. I mean, of course, that might look completely different in your heads, and that's also fine. But we're just going to add little bits. And it's such a simple technique. But sometimes I think we try to overcomplicate things, and simple sometimes is the better way to go. So there we are. We'll aim not to have that on the floor. We might need to get some more white out in a minute. There we are. So I'm deliberately not sticking religiously to my circle. I'm wanting them to have a circular feel, but not to be rigid. Oh, I'm sorry, Angela. I do hope you feel better soon. Thank you, Barbara. I think it's just quite a nice thing to do, but a little bit mindful, a little bit different. Let me just pop those over there. Oops, she says, picking up white paint. There we are. Let's just have a little bit of scrape of some of that over to there and get rid of one of those before we have an oops moment and it all goes flying. So now we're needing to add a little bit more interest to this. And at this point, I have swapped to a single a single cotton bud, because I can add these much more sparsely. But again, just because I'm loading and then I'm dipping until it's faded out, and it's allowing me to layer the colours over everything else, and you can see through, particularly where I'm picking up some of the wetter fabric, the wetter parts of the paint. And I have no idea where the technique came in my head. I think I have seen some people painting with cotton buds maybe quite a long time ago, but it would be many years ago. And then I saw a project with a dandelion that was beautiful, and I thought, that will drive me mad doing that. It's going to take forever. But let me have a play, because art is good for playing, isn't it? And, enjoying and finding new things. And so I thought, yeah. So I grabbed just a little bit of scrap fabric and had a quick play, and then thought, okay, this works. This works. And we could draw in some lines in these bits that are lying out, and that would also be fine. There we are. Let's just add some more bits onto here. So we've still got the essence of the lines. We've not quite lost all of the bits from the circles, but we're getting there. So let's just move over that. And this is now looking very squashed and very splodgy and wide. So I'm just going to swap now and pick up a new one. You can see that I'm now going to get a little bit more controlled. So change them as you need to. You don't have to just persevere with the same end. And as I say, if you really wanted to, you could pick up ball tools and do each one of these, each colour separately with the ball tool. But I'm rather liking the fact that I can layer these, and the base ones went on so much more quickly because I took because I used the the three together. You could wrap those three together with with an elastic band. It might make your life a little bit easier. But we're beginning to get our layering. Thank you. Yes, that's the idea. It looks like they're sort of blowing in the wind, or a child has picked them up. But I'm hoping, it's not. I'm not going to claim it's an original idea. It did come out of my head, but I'm sure someone else will have done it before. But I just felt that it would just be an easy project, something that people could do without worrying, because there isn't a set of rules, and it's a very abstract form, and we're just adding all of our bits and our details. And I say that the cotton bud almost does some of the work for you, because as it lifts, you don't necessarily get whole circles. So let me swap to pop that one in the bin, and we'll just swap to another one over here. And at this rate, this live is going to be finished fairly early, but hey ho, that's all right, isn't it? But there we are. I said to my lovely husband when I was setting up, I might need to slow down with this, otherwise we could be hit. It could be a very quick activity. But then again, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe we don't always need to be spending ages on our lives. I do need a little bit more of that white paint to do. Yeah, and let's just grab a new palette knife to do that with. There we are. There. We shouldn't need much more of that, so let's just pop that there. Pop that into wash, and then we can knock that onto there. There we are. Excellent. We might just pick up having knocked that down, we might just pick up another one of these. But it's just, I just think it's quite mindful, quite restful, and quite effective. And I'm not going to go back in with any of the darker colours because I think it doesn't need it. There we are. And let's just pop a few more pieces coming out as if they're blowing, as you say, in the breeze, and they're not all together. Oh yeah, hopefully. That's now looking quite nice. So we have, let's just pop that out of the way, some dandelions just happily sitting there, and I'm just going to give my hands a little bit of a wash because they're yucky and they just need to be cleaned down. One of the things that working with the fabric painters told me is if you don't clean down, you can guarantee you'll end up with paint where you don't want it. So I now have a nice soft round brush. Let's pop that over there, and I'm just going to mix this together, not particularly mithered about the things, and I'm using a round brush because I'm going to deliberately come down and create myself a wonky, intentionally, stem. And I'm going to dilute this paint down a little bit so it flows more easily for me, because at the moment it's all a bit thick, and it's going to, I think, flow much more manageably if it's not quite so thick. There we are. We'll cover that. There we are. And take that through into the centre. So let's just pick up some of this and we'll add a little stem there. Now we're going to need a stem, and I'm deliberately taking it through from the centre because that's where it would come from, isn't it? And I'm going to use a bit of artistic license there and not go through there. There we are. Can add a little bit of colour. Maybe we can just take a hint of that through there as if it's peeking through the from the bottom. There we are. Let's just have another one of those. There we are. I'm just picking up some little bits of white into that to just pull these colours in, soften it down a little bit, adding a little bit of texture into these leaves or the stems by layering the colours so that it's not all a single flat colour, because nature isn't a single flat colour. There we are. And then let's just take that round to there. And if you're not confident, then of course you could draw these lines in first, but I'm not unduly worried. As I say, it's abstract, isn't it? It's intentionally abstract. I think a bit more through there, and I might add some dots back over that in a minute. I have a bar. So now I have a simple thing, and I just want to add some bits of greenery, something that makes these plants not quite look as if they're stuck in the middle of nowhere. So we're going to add some abstract leaves and things into here, and all I'm doing is using my brush and flicking up so that, and I'm using the same approach of a little bit of paint and then just take it through, and I'm lifting the pressure off as I come up. So I'm getting different depths and densities of my paint and some different lengths, and that's also cool. So let's just add some more darkness into there. So it looks like we've got basically some ground. And our dandelions are no longer floating in the middle of nowhere. There we are. Cool. All right, very good, Sophie, thank you. There we are. So now I'm just going to give this a little blitz, because I'm rather hoping you can get rid of, so just by heat setting this, I'm managing to get rid of those drawn lines from my Frixium pen. And I can dry this because I want to add some more details in. And you can stop at this point quite happily. You don't then need to add anything else. I'm going to say right at the beginning, I did put a piece of cardboard into this pillowcase cover, cushion cover in the UK to give it a little bit more support, and I had managed to use an iron of horrors to iron these pieces. Let me just give this. So we've got lots of shade, lots of depth, some little bits floating in the breeze. Yeah, very pretty little areas. And you could call it a day. Perfectly possible to completely hold this in a day. You know, at this stage, as a simple monochrome make with the dandelions. I've just got some thicker blobs in the centre of some of these. I'm just going to give a bit more of a wish dry too. But if you know, I'm going to show you how you can take it to another level if you want to. And of course, it's entirely up to you. But I don't want this to move too much as I do so. Thank you, Jan. So ideally, to make these paints waterproof, you would let them dry for 24 hours and then you would heat set them for 2 minutes per area, and so that it's all the bits of paint had 2 minutes of heating, and then you can throw them in the washing machine. So I decided, because I'm slightly bonkers, as we all know, that I would iron all of the pieces I've made over the last few weeks on the lives in one go. And it took me, because I've done the big bags, I've done that huge apron, the grand total of 3 hours to go through all of the pieces. And I did genuinely set a timer and pop the iron onto an area, waited for the 2 minute timer to go off, and then carried on and did the next bit. And I used travel iron, which was probably my mistake, because I'm sure if I'd used the one with the bigger foot plate, it wouldn't have taken me quite such a long time. The pieces have been thrown in the washing machine and the paint does not shift. So when you're working, please put an apron on. If you get splats on your clothes, you will regret it, because those clothes will end up going into a rubbish bin, because you can't shift it for love nor money. And I have at least one set of leggings to prove that. Oh, Right, let's get rid of that. So I now wanting to, so as I say, we could leave it just at that level. And I think it's very, very lovely as it is. But we could add a little bit of colour into the background. So I've got a little bit of the batik paints from last year. Let me just squidge that one that has sprayed. And let's shovel that because that will move. So I'm just going to wet the black background areas with my spray. Having set most of that with a dry, I'm hoping it doesn't move too very much. I do want the dyes to move. Designer leggings, yes. I ummed and ahed about deliberately. So this is the lightning medium for the paints, for the batik paints, and you need that they are very colour dense. So let me just add some of this, fix it up. See, it's still very, very bright. Very, very bright. It's not quite the soft colour that I'm wanting. It's not as bright as it was, but that's my fault. Fortunately, I have lots. So what I suggest you do is you add your white to your pot first, and then you drip in your colour, because you can see how much. So we're just going to add some little areas. We can shovel it out. It will continue to move. So we're going to get some different colours. You can see even now, that paint that hasn't really been set isn't being disturbed by me adding this colour into the background. That's an area that I need to give a good spritz to, she says, because that's clearly not where I've got any. And as I say, these colours will move until the background is dry. You don't need to do much. It will just wick all quietly on its own away from the areas. So we can take some of that in. I'm not disturbing that paint too much, fortunately. It's behaving. So I can just spread it out. And this is about using your products and getting the most out of things, isn't it? And I could add quite happily. It's very sketchy. That's intentional. But it looks hopefully that the dandelions are no longer just plonked onto but they're setting in a bit of the garden. And I've just popped a bit too much up there, and that's fine. So there we are. We'll just pop these out. Oops, there's clearly a bit of a wetter paint over there that is moving, so I just need to be careful. There we are. So I now have a bit of a groundwork. It's not so obviously, it's just sitting there. Let's just have a bit more, blur it out to the edges, pop it over to the edges of my material, a little bit more up onto there, just scoot it around, and as I say, then it can sit and wick quite happily while it dries. And I can add more if I want to, or I can heat set my fabric and then add some more later on. So I've now got my things in, and I do have a green. Now this green, to be fair, is more of a turquoise. We're going to add we will add just a little bit into the bottom. As I say, you could stop before you add any of the colours. The choice is entirely yours, really. It doesn't have to be all the same. Let me just get rid of whatever's on there. Cool. We'll add some of this. So we're just going to add some bits of this into here, and it can mix and mingle and wick up to see that blue, and it'll wick down as well. So that paint there is clearly not heat set and clearly not dry, and that's also fine. But I'm rather liking the look. And it's interesting because on camera this green is looking more blue, but it's definitely a turquoisey green, not a blue down here now. And yes, some of the paints are mixing because they're not heat set, and that's also fine because it's merging the whole lot together. So there we are. So that is that step. Let's just give this a little bit of a blast. Thank you. So again, this is another stop point if that's what you want to do. But I think it's quite an effective technique. This might take me a little bit of a while, so I'll concentrate on the areas that I want to add a little bit more into. Because it's good to be able to mix and match your products, isn't it? And not have everything the same. Now, I would say I think you probably ought to heat set, dry this off properly and heat set it before you do what I'm going to do. Because I think when you iron the next step, after the next step has dried, I think you might just find you squash what I'm going to do. But I still think that you'll have a pretty effect. And that's a bit of an abstract thought process, isn't it? Because I am quite happily talking in riddles when you don't know what I'm up to. Right, okie dokie. It's not really that dry, but hey ho. So hello Lena, welcome from Greece. Colour with medium, and then you apply the mixture, you spray the project with water. So the dandelions, Lena, were made with the fabric paints and cotton buds, lots of cotton buds, and then I sprayed the fabric and added, where have I put it? A mixture of these two, and I've let that spread to create the sky. I now have a glitter pen, and you could do this or not. So I can now just add little dots of glitter. And we might be here, oops, I want them as dots, not as splodges. So I think that this will just add just a little extra. And it really isn't something that you'll see me grabbing very often. But I just thought it would add a little bit more interest into this piece. A little bit more texture. So this is the rainbow. So it will look like the sun is catching and splitting. As we do that. And you can add as many or as few or none. The choice is entirely yours at this point. Thank you, Sarah. Because this is in a gel medium base, it will dry clear, and all you'll see is a little bit of texture and the little blobs with the glitter. Just neaten that one into place. There we are. The centre of that is still very wet. I know it is. And if you wanted, you could add some silver ones, because there is a silver glitter pen. But I'm thinking I might just not over egg the pudding with the glitter, if that makes sense. And the colours will show through underneath. So I will carry on blobbing, but I will not subject you to watching me do more of these, because I appreciate that it's probably not showing up very well on camera, but I'm just adding these areas. Have I covered? No, I haven't. I've got a huge area here to add, and I'm really being incredibly random, because these will dry translucent, but with the glitter it doesn't matter if I go over other areas, because it's just going to add that little bit of shimmer. Shake that down. There we are. We are sort of not quite round the whole of that piece. There we are. I think we might add little bits just over into some of these areas. Take the sparkle just out slightly away from everything else. There we are. So we will let this dry thoroughly. As I say, I think it's an easy project to do. It's highly achievable. I think the children would love to do it. And I think if you chose to do this with this collection and the white, the purple, the rose and the cyclamen lilac, you could make yourself some beautiful alliums in very much the same way. So I appreciate that this is, for me, a relatively quick live this evening. I now need to leave this to dry. I think if I try adding any more to here, we'll be in huge trouble. I hope that you've enjoyed it and that you've learned something. And please have a go, try. Do it on an old t-shirt, on the back of a denim jacket, on the pockets of an old pair of jeans or some shorts. Have a go, have a play, and then post the pictures and tag me so I know what you've been up to and I can see your creations, because that would be wonderful. So please stay safe, enjoy the rest of the week. There are 2 more lives, one tomorrow, and I think it might be Timmy. I apologise if that is wrong, but the lovely Vasilis will be back on Thursday with another live in English. So take care, everyone, and see you online fairly soon.